The University of Kentucky is proud to present one of the great university bands in America. Ladies and gentlemen, your University of Kentucky Wildcat Marching Band.
I think the band brings a great energy. They're doing it out of the love of music and the love of everything we do here. It provides community for people, especially non-music majors.
It's nice to see that a lot of people that aren't from the School of Music still come back to the WMB every year, and I feel like they always come back because they want to still participate in music, and this is a really good outlet for that.
Join the band, you're joining this community. So, and especially when you come to the University of Kentucky, you're joining this program that actually makes this large university a smaller community, and you make some really, really close friends in the program too.
Especially in music, like most conductors are male, and it's just a prevailing theme, but it's important for me to see women in leadership roles because it shows that I can do something like that too.
I don't personally think about it as being the first woman because to me it's just being the band director of the program. Almost like a creative process where an artist is kind of drawing out pictures, but you're drawing it with actual people on the field.
All right, BBA, get ready for the cat spell out!
I always look at our fans and I look at the little kids and I always see, oh my God, they're so happy about seeing us perform. And it's not only just bringing the energy and bringing the pep to our games, it's creating these experiences for people. That's a super important part of what we do.
But we also feel like we're stewards of it. You know, we're passing through. The house is, 200 and some years old, and 200 years from now, there will be other people here that, are stewards of this property. It's it's an important historic structure. My name is Michael Kaliniak. I live here at the Jacob Spears House. It's also known as Stone Castle. Jacob Spears is recognized as one of the first frontier distillers of bourbon in the world. He is credited with being the distiller that shipped barrels of bourbon from Maysville. They would barge the bourbon down to New Orleans, and then oddly, Jacob Spears would get his money and walk back to Bourbon County, Kentucky. The house is relevant in that bourbon has become such an important industry to Kentucky. Over the years, while we've lived here, bourbon has become this explosive industry. And so certainly these frontier distillers, people like Jacob Spears, who were, among the first distillers of bourbon, they're historically important to Kentucky and bourbon. It was built by Kentucky's second governor. His name was Thomas Metcalf. He was a famous stonemason. He had a nickname, Old Stonehammer. And he built this house for Jacob Spears. Over the course of the last 27 years have been steadily improving, renovating, restoring this historic house. The challenges we have with this place involve modernizing it. So we had to install modern HVAC, plumbing. Electricity was here when we moved in, but we had to update all of that. So living in a very old house and updating it to current standards was challenging and hard and certainly expensive. About a year ago, my wife and I put conservation easements on the house, our farm that has the warehouse, the stone warehouse, and certainly the spring house. We put conservation easements on all of these properties for the purpose of protecting them. Because of what they are, we were afraid that in the future, somebody would come in here and want to do something to commercially develop this property and to make it into something other than what it is now. And we both felt like we needed, while we are the stewards of it, to take steps to prevent that from happening. So now, thankfully, because of this conservation easement with the Bluegrass Land Conservancy, we have protected the property from that happening. No one can tear the house down. No one can, develop the property into anything other than what it is now, which is basically agricultural property. Bourbon can be distilled here, but then that's what Jacob Spears did, 200 years ago. We've lived here since 1996, so we're occupants for a relatively short period of the house's history. But in the 25, 26 years that we've lived here, we've accumulated a lot of memories, and spent at this point half my life living here. So it's important to me, because of that. My kids grew up here. My marriage has occurred here in this house. And for all of those reasons, it's just, it's the backdrop of our family.
My name is Leon Kress. I'm a tattoo artist. I own Poison Pen Tattoo. I do a lot of illustration, like comic book work, anime. I like doing color, so those kind of fall in line with that. I also do black and gray work, but mostly illustration. I like little details. I get to do art for a living. That's fantastic. It's hard to find something that you love that you can make money doing. But you have to also be willing to put the work in for it. Finding that nice happy balance between, what you enjoy doing and then making money doing it it's a task, but it can be done. I traded some artwork for my first tattoo. I couldn't afford a tattoo, but I wanted one. I traded my artwork, and the guy done the tattoo for me, and then he offered me an apprenticeship. I'd say in the early 90s, 92, 93, somewhere in there. Did my apprenticeship, worked for a short time, and then took a few years hiatus. I did engineering for 16 years, so I had a day job to do this, and eventually you just want to get out of the race with those people and do it for yourself. I had an opportunity to come back into it, so I did, and that was probably, I'd say, about 10 years now. I just wanted to not have another boss, outside of my clients. Provide an environment that was different than your standard shops. And get away from street shops, become more private. Take my friends with me. See if I can do it. One more challenge. So far, it's worked out pretty good. I guess I got really good artists that stay here with me, and I think everybody's pretty happy. They like coming to work at least. So I say as an owner and stuff that's a positive when your people like coming to work. It gives us a place to go and be with like-minded people and surround ourselves in a community. The tattooing industry is a community. There's a lot of us. I'm never down about coming to work. I don't mind being here. It's always constant progression. You got to get better. Even going home isn't you don't go home. You don't leave work that way. You go home and you draw. You work on your next pattern and your next design and the next sleeve. And so you're always doing it. So there's never really a day off, but you enjoy it. Clientele, getting their artwork correct or giving them more than they want, that can be an issue. It's not a horrible issue, but making sure that you get all of their ideas in and try and give them exactly what they want, or like I said, more than what they ask for is usually a difficult task. It takes a whole lot to get past that, this is permanent. What I'm doing to somebody can't go away. So if I mess it up, I mess up forever. You'd have to wear that mark for the rest of your life. If it was wrong, it's wrong. You can cover them or fix them, but the stigma you get from messing people up can be detrimental. It hurt your chances as an artist. It takes a whole lot to get past that. And you still have it sometimes today. I don't want somebody leaving hating their artwork, and feeling like they didn't get the best that they should have gotten or more than they should have gotten. So we pay a lot of attention to it. So and I think that would always make you a good artist, as long as you pay attention to what you're doing and, think about your client foremost. The people who come in, we have a lot of return clientele, so that's a show that it's a positive effect on their lives. Tattooing still has that stigma, and people don't think of it as like a true job, like as a career path or something like that. You know, we still have that stigma. It's like, oh, you're a tattoo artist, not like, oh, you're an artist. You know, you always get the first part, so they don't really look at it the same way. But for our clients and the people that we bring in, it gives some people, it gives them a chance to kind of talk about their problems and vent to somebody else. You know, so we listen to a lot of people talk. You know, it's a good therapy. That says a lot about the artist as well. You know, that we make you feel comfortable enough to open up, even while you're being tortured. Tattooing can make you, you know, that gives you a route to express yourself. So a lot of people like use that to kind of show who they are. We give them the means to do that. So when you see people walking out smiling and stuff with their tattoos, you know, it has to be a positive impact.
For me personally, I've definitely found a struggle in my college career of balancing, you know, my schoolwork and my personal interests, because art is definitely something I'm passionate about and it's something I love to do, but it's also my schoolwork. And so trying to maintain that interest and that passion while it being my coursework and something that I am graded on and I'm criticized on has definitely been something that has been a work in progress for me. My name is Leah Newton and I'm from Bardstown, Kentucky. I'm a studio art and arts administration double major. So with arts administration, I'm actually studying the business of arts and culture programs. So a lot of that comes back to nonprofit organizations like museums and theaters and just managing those companies. And with studio art, I get to study a lot of different artistic disciplines like sculpture and drawing and painting. Around campus, I am a member of the Alpha Delta Pi sorority. I'm currently serving them as the secondary panel delegate. And in the spring semester, I'll take over as vice president of marketing. And other than that, I am a member of the UK Dance Ensemble. Right now, I'm working on my final, which is called 16 Square Feet of Flesh. It is a 16 square foot canvas, so 4 feet by 4 feet, and it just has to be flesh. So it was a pretty open prompt, and I'm paying my friend Ella that I photoshopped. I got involved with the arts at a really young age. Ever since I could really hold a pencil, I've always been creative with my hands, so I've always been doodling and drawing and painting. I grew up taking piano lessons and in competitive dance, so the arts have always really been a part of my life. So when it came to kind of deciding what to study in college, I always knew that that was kind of going to be my number one pick. That's really what I want to do with my life, and just really pursuing the arts. With my sorority, I'm actually the banner chair, so any banners that we have that are for philanthropy events or date parties or whatnot, those are all done by me, so I design and paint those onto bed sheets and then display them for the campus to see. But at the UK SABS building, which is the School of Art and Visual Studies, we actually get to display a lot of our work just for the community of the school. And also we have the Boulevard Art Gallery, which is inside the school, which is a in-house kind of museum of sorts where we have galleries, and some of my artwork has been able to be featured there once before. I am in the Painting 1 studio class, and I traditionally am an acrylic painter. And acrylic is a plastic-based paint that dries super quickly, and so that's what I was really used to. And then kind of stepping into Painting 1, which is a predominantly oil painting course, and having to learn how to do oils for the first time ever was definitely a learning curve. And I like to think I'm good with change, but sometimes I'm not. And so to be able to kind of step into a new form of a medium I'm really familiar with and just kind of flip it on its head and have to learn completely new techniques was really a challenge for me, but I'm really, really proud of myself with the hard work and dedication that I've poured into this semester. And so the piece I'm probably most proud of this semester is my muffin piece. It was part of the photorealism project that I mentioned before. And so it is just a photorealistic painting of muffins, and I just feel like it was super successful, and I'm proud of all the work I put into it. Mostly what inspires me is how art interacts with people. That is one of my biggest passions, and is why I'm pursuing art and arts administration collegiately. It's just I really want to spread art to the world, and I feel like it's one of our most valuable tools as humans. So.
My name is Elizabeth Bussey. I go by Liz, and I'm one of the owners of Warehouse here in Lexington, Kentucky. Well, for me personally, it started out, I just enjoyed thrifting for myself, and then people came to me and they were like, Liz, you're spending too much money. And I was like, how can I do this and make money? How can I do this and still buy stuff for myself? So I just started selling anything, like, you know, Lululemon, Free People, and I would pick certain vintage pieces just that matched my style. I was working at a really crappy job. I was working, I'm not gonna lie, at Charming Charlie, before they reopened, and it was very mentally draining. I was working as the assistant store manager, but it was one of those situations where you're just not getting paid enough for what you're doing. You're like, this is not worth it. And it was really draining mentally, and that's actually kind of how I met Shonda. And then like in the span of 2 months, they were closing all the Charming Charlies, so I was losing my job, and she was like, do this with me full time. And I was already kind of thinking about it because I was already selling on Poshmark. I was already, in the reselling, world. But I never thought that I would actually have the courage to do it. And then when Shonda said that, I was like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. If I can work that hard for someone else, I can work that hard for myself, And yeah, that happened summer 2019, and I've really never looked back, and I don't think I could ever work for anyone ever again. I really fell in love with vintage for just like more than the sustainability aspect, but like just the preservation of these pieces in history. Like they're, some of them are one of a kind, custom tailored, and to get to know the history of those pieces and who wore them, like that's super important. So anywhere and everywhere we can find it, we do. So we go thrifting, obviously, that's kind of how we started. And then we meet people. Shonda can talk to anybody. If she sees something on your porch, she'll knock on your door and be like, is that for sale? Like, she can talk to anybody about vintage and all that stuff. So networking and finding people who are like, oh, my grandfather passed away and he had his barn full of stuff. And we go through barns, we go through warehouses, we meet people and just go through their personal collections. People will bring stuff in now because they know we're here. So really anywhere and everywhere we will find it. That is our most expensive piece in the shop right now. It's a 1980s Hollywood Regency style solid brass swan table. So it's got like a wood base and then 2 huge swan sculptures on it with a glass top, and it's beautiful. And I freaked out when I found it, but we found it online on a few websites for ranging between $4,000 and $4,500. So we have it for $2,000. Which I still think is great. And then I said, if I didn't live in a tiny home, I would totally have it in my house. Recently, we just had a woman come in, and her dad was a UK football player in 1959. He played on I don't know if it was the JV team at the time. I don't know if colleges did that, but something like that, where he wasn't a starter, but he was on the UK football team. And he was dating his high school sweetheart. They got married. They were from Eastern Kentucky. So once they came into money, he just was like, anything you want, let's go to Thailand and I'll buy you dresses and all this stuff. So she brought in some of her dresses from her mother, and they were just these beautiful, crazy patterns, just stuff you don't find at your local thrift store. Everything from this woman was custom tailored to her body, from small designers. That's another thing with vintage. It's all small designers. So when you look them up, half the time you don't even know who they are because they lived in a small town like Lexington, and But yeah, this one's beautiful. And we had a woman named Kathy come in, and I can't even remember what she said. She was like, oh, that 1907 Je ne sais la la up there. And I was like, what? And she had to bring me up here and show me this piece. And we need to ask her what it was again, but it's from 1907, and it's what women wore to travel on trains. This is they're just everyday attire. They're traveling attire. So that's something that's it's not for sale, but we have it. But we have plans on expanding and making this not just a typical vintage shop, but having more interactive experiences with it, and having, without giving anything away, cool glimpses of fashion and just things like that aren't necessarily you're coming in here to buy. You're coming in here to learn about the pieces and have that experience with it. So we have plans like that, and then we have thought about 10 years down the line, who knows, we might want to open a new location, but we really love Lexington, and we love being local and being here and being able to be here every day. That's really important to us. So, yeah. So I made this top. We were doing a fashion show with the University of Kentucky, and the concept behind it was really to keep fur that's already been used out of landfills. And now, unfortunately, furriers don't repair fur coats anymore. So a lot of them that are damaged get thrown away anyway. So we took a fur coat and made this top, and then we added these chains, and it went down the runway, and this beautiful woman named Ava, she wore it on the runway, And she actually wore it with these pants. And it was awesome. So yeah, that used to be a coat and now it's a top. And this was in a fashion show. Don't be perfect about it. Don't worry if, you know, your logo's not perfect. Don't worry if you don't have the perfect packaging. We use recycled packaging. Like, all my boxes have the Amazon tape on them. Like, don't worry about being perfect, you know, and don't worry about competing in the way that, like, social media makes you think that somebody else is doing so well. Don't think that because you have less followers than them that your followers don't like you just as much as their followers like them, you know, or just don't be discouraged by thinking about how other people are doing things, because that can be very hard when you're in any kind of business and you're seeing other businesses and the way that they are thriving or the way that they are like putting on a persona that they're thriving and you don't know, you know. So definitely know that it's your journey and don't go fast. Definitely take your time with it. You don't need $100,000 in business loans. Like, you can literally start from scratch and build your own racks and eventually buy racks, or eventually, you know, it doesn't have to be big all at once. You start small and work your way up, and then it'll turn into your perfect little mess.
Hi everyone, I'm Reagan Leroy, and I started my own personal styling and shopping business called Live Colorfully in Lexington, Kentucky. I have a couple different service options, but the main one is like physically going and shopping for people. So what they'll do is they'll book a consultation meeting. They'll meet with me either virtually or in person, and we'll discuss their styling and shopping needs. That includes sizing, pricing, everything that I might need to know about them. I'll shop at 3 boutiques in Lexington, deliver it to them, style them within like their clothes in their own closet, and then I'll return anything that they do not want. Get my name out there. I've been doing a couple like pop-up shops at the boutiques I work with. So I'll come in and offer like styling help for any clients that come in the store and kind of tell them a little bit about what I do. I also bring in my merchandise for people to purchase while they're in the store. And it just kind of inspires others to live colorfully in their own bodies and to find styling that makes that happen.
My name is Maddie Brezowitz. I am from a small town in Wisconsin. It's called Burlington. I always say like an hour south of Milwaukee, an hour north of Chicago. Grew up in a huge Catholic farming family up there. I'm the oldest of 4 siblings. I have siblings. They're Joey, Molly, Katie. We're all 2 years apart. It's the best way to be raised. So my dad is a high school basketball coach. He has been coaching varsity basketball since he was 22, and he's 51 now. So, you know, over 25 years. He's coached at my high school in Burlington. You know, I'm the oldest of 4 kids, so my parents, well, my mom would always send all of us with my dad on Saturday mornings to the gym, and just basically so she could have the house to herself. So when I say we grew up in the gym, like, we grew up in the gym. And whether we were playing one-on-one on the side hoop, or we were playing with volleyball against the wall, or playing hide and seek in the back room, we just like were always at the gym growing up. And so from a very young age, I was always playing sports, whether it was volleyball, softball, basketball, gymnastics. Those were kind of the things that I loved to do, and I think more so my parents just liked getting rid of us, but we all did that for as long as I can remember. So before the recruiting rules changed 2 years ago, you used to be able to be recruited, you know, when you were in 8th grade if you wanted to. That was not my situation, but you could if you wanted to. And I remember getting my first like generic letter from University of Green Bay. My whole team got it, but I felt like I was like the cat's meow. I thought it was the coolest thing that Division I program had reached out to me. And it was just like a questionnaire in the mail, but all my teammates were getting all of these emails and texts from coaches and, you know, unofficial visits set up, and I had yet to go through puberty. I was maybe scratching 100 pounds, 5'3", like very underdeveloped, but I knew I wanted to go to a big school. I knew I was smart enough to, I knew that I had work ethic too, but it was just a matter of a school taking a chance on me. But ultimately, I always knew I wanted to come to Kentucky. I just knew like what a cool university Kentucky was and how awesome the BBN was, and So with that, I continued to reach out to Craig, Anders, at the time, Carly Kramer, telling them about myself. I would send these long emails, I go back and read them sometimes, just about how badly I want to come here, how much I think I could have made a difference on the court, off the court. Didn't get a lot of replies in the beginning, and then eventually they came and watched me my sophomore year in high school, and I got a call from Anders, and he was like, hey, I think we're interested. They offered me a preferred walk-on, and the rest is history. I just had to convince my mom to come here. So my biggest reason in wanting to come to a school like Kentucky is I always wanted something that was just so much bigger than myself. Knowing that I was going to be a part of something that was legendary, that was successful, that was a winning culture. And that is the exact same thing I want to do in my career. But this lady, you know, that I met in my first few months of being in Lexington kind of convinced me to switch to finance and explore what that path looked like. My dad always said growing up, there's only two ways to make a difference in the world, and it's finance and politics. And I can't believe I'm actually following his guidance, but I really am going into finance. And I think that it's such a neat opportunity for females, possibility to, you know, give money where money's needed and invest in female entrepreneurs and invest in female-owned businesses. And it's a really unique time right now for females in finance, and I'm really excited about where the future is for me in finance. So when I decided I wanted to do finance, I had no idea where to start. I honestly really enjoy networking, and my teammates all make fun of me because I'm either, you know, on the phone or following up with somebody or whatever it may be. But I've probably called, you know, 200 to 300 people in the finance world at this point, and it's been so cool for me because I've been able to learn what my path in finance may look like, and I've learned that from people who have been doing it for, you know, 20, 30 years, and each phone call makes me a little more excited about what my career might look like in finance. I was able to get a sophomore year internship with a company called TradeWeb. TradeWeb is a market maker for fixed income. Essentially, it's the middleman for institutions who want to trade fixed income. And so that was really neat, and it was virtual, so I was able to still work out here in Lexington and then work, you know, 8 to 5 or whatever it was. And then that internship actually prepared me really nicely for my internship last year, my junior year. We typically have to be here in the summer to train. So October my sophomore year, 2020, I went into Craig's office and I said, Craig, I know this has never been done before, but I need you to trust me, and is there any way I could go to New York City between my junior and senior year to get an internship? And he was like, Rez, you know, we haven't done this in the past, but if it's a really great internship, then I think you have to do it. So I took that as a yes, and I networked like crazy, called as many people as I could, did as many diversity programs and female in finance programs as I could. Ended up getting multiple offers, ended up taking the offer at Credit Suisse for the following summer. And so I worked in New York City at Credit Suisse this past summer in their sales and trading division, which is like your stereotypical trading floor of, you know, the 2000 era, except it's very much more computerized now. So that experience was otherworldly. I had never been to New York before I stepped off the plane to live there for 2 months. This summer, it was so apparent to me of how prepared I was going into that internship, and it had nothing to do with my education here at Kentucky. My education has been nothing short of outstanding here in the finance department and the business school. They do a phenomenal job of preparing you for life outside of college. With that being said, the way I was prepared intangibly for the summer shined even greater. I was with 40 other kids my age from really high achieving schools. You have Harvard kids, Stanford kids, Northwestern, U-Chicago, you name it. Like, those are the kids that are going into finance because those are the target schools that are highly recruited. Not really kids from Kentucky. With that being said, I just felt so prepared all summer and so ready for whatever tasks I was given or whatever challenge was presented to me. When everyone around me is complaining about their lack of sleep or, you know, how tired they are or how sick they are of doing something, that's not something we do at Kentucky Volleyball. And those values are so instilled in me that it shined through this summer that, you know, people would look at me and they're like, why aren't you complaining? Because that's what you got to do, and that's just how it is. And you're making a salary, and you're gonna have a successful career because of the work you're putting in right now. And those are all of the same things that we've learned here at Kentucky Volleyball, and at the business school here as well. So ultimately, Kentucky has prepared me for a life outside of sports and outside of school, more than I think I've even grasped yet. My full-time offer will be in sales and trading, not at Credit Suisse, probably at a different big bank in Chicago. That's the goal, so we'll see what happens. So something that Craig Skinner, our head coach, talks a lot about in the recruiting process is the importance of recruiting winners. So I won 2 state championships in volleyball, 2 runner-ups in volleyball, or 1 runner-up in softball, 1 runner-up in volleyball for state as well. And that's like not uncommon on our team at all. There is several state champions, a lot of national champions in club. And so when he talks about that in the recruiting process, it almost becomes an expectation when you get here that we're here to win championships. And that goes for SEC championships and for national championships. Fortunately, we've been able to win 6 SEC championships in a row, which is unheard of across the country in a Power 5 conference such as the SEC. And so it's really, really special to be a part of a program that not only it's an expectation to win the SEC championship, but it's also an expectation to make it far in the tournament. And we're kind of creating our own path, I think, in the SEC, since the SEC isn't notoriously known for being dominant in the sport of volleyball. And so we're kind of helping shine light on the talent that we do have in the conference, which is really exciting and promising for the future. So then when you look at my career here, winning 3 SEC championships in a row, and then winning the national championship in 2020, you know, those are the things that, if there is volleyball memories to remember, those are the things that I will forever remember and love and cherish about my time at UK. Winning the national championship was unlike anything you could ever imagine. You know, if you think that 1% of high school athletes get to play at the Division I level, probably 1% of that 1% get to win a national championship. So it's a really unique, you know, situation to be in, and just a really special memory altogether. The best thing, hands down, about Kentucky volleyball is the people. And you hear that every single time someone talks to you about what they love most about college, right? But I've truly made my best friends for life here, and the memories that we've made together are hopefully some of the best in my life. I hope they keep getting better, but it's cool that we all share, you know, the national championship, which we always say was like the best day of each of our lives, which is so cool that we were all a part of each other's best day of our life. And that just goes for so many small moments, so many big moments, and hard moments, and joyful moments, and everything in between. The people here are truly what makes it such a special place to be.